Progression! Yes, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for the second video of today. Yes, with a lot of people having a lot more time to play Marvel Contest of Champions, especially with all what's going on at the moment, that's a bit kind of like, so yes, a lot of people playing the game. So let's talk about Progression Guide, where you should start, and also where would be good content to consider to go on to after you've done one particular type of content. We've got a table that we're going to refer back to that I've written together, which I feel is a relatively good structure, and a lot of it is still up for scrutiny. Obviously, there will be certain things like if you've got X, Y, and Z champion, then it's going to make X, Y, and Z content easier. So there's a lot of things to factor in and consider rather than just saying, yeah, do Act 1, oh yeah, and finish off at Abyss of Legends. It's not as simple as that, because there are champions that are going to make this so much easier to grind out different areas. And obviously, just to further kind of go in that list, which we will be going back to in a minute, it's just really saying that if somebody has about 1 to 2 hours a day, and at weekends obviously has about 4 to 5 hours, they can get this progression locked down from a start point when they enter the game to an end point, and obviously taking in lots of things into consideration like skill level and getting the right champions for the job. So let's, without further ado, get into this. So to begin with, it is really important to get Act 1, 2 and 3 hammered out very early on. And obviously something that I would say is balance between the early points of doing monthly event quests. Yes, they're not permanent content, but it's all about shard acquisition and as well rank up materials acquisition. Because when you get some good 2s and 3 stars, they're going to be helpful to propel yourself through certain content. And you never know, one of your very first 4 stars, which is a little bit more easier to obtain nowadays, it is a case it could propel you through some difficult content. And as well, your 3-star roster could be helpful as well, not to mention your 2-star roster. Now, this is about the time that you'll probably think about joining alliances, having a little bit more emphasis on doing monthly events. Again, shard acquisition, rank up material acquisition, because you want to be looking towards Act 5 after you've done Act 4. Act 4 is all about honing in those skills and improvements when it comes to intercepting, and as well putting in place very basic masteries that like your parry, like your dexterity, and as well certain things that amplify the damage output. And it's a case when you get to Act 5 and you're pushing towards Act 5.2 for the uncollected. By the way, guys, I do have, and there are links in the description too. This is the point that you're going to be starting to work on getting those go-to champions to then get you through certain content like this here in Act 5 and get that uncollected. This is then when it becomes optional for you to do something like Realm of Legends. And Realm of Legends is all about testing you to do more damage over a longer period of time and scaling up. Certain champions that OGs of the game like Star-Lord, or if you've got Aegon, can be worked on his. But I'd probably say you can do this with 4 stars. I have seen people do this with 3 stars. 4 stars would be better, but obviously if you've got 5 stars, then that is going to make a situation easier. Only attempt this if you feel you are confident enough with a champion to reach a high hit pool, and as well don't take damage. This may cost the players a little bit of revives, but when you come to an early stage in the game, this is something that will be your first big test for high hit pool fights if you haven't done Act 5.2 or initial clear of Act 5.4. Also, for those interested, Road to Labyrinth is an optional thing. I would probably say with the extent of rewards that you get from it, it is not worth doing, especially if you're more focused on doing things like the monthly event quests. That will yield better stuff, and as well there are better things that you could do with your time than doing Road to Labyrinth, unless you want to do it with OP 5 stars or kind of stronger 5 stars. If you just go, look, I need to clear some content which isn't really there at the moment, and I can't really do it yet, so optional for Road to Labyrinth. Now, depending if you are a new player to the game or an OG player that's restarting back an account, it is going to be optional where you take your next emphasis. Now, obviously, those that have experience with the game that may be doing a new account would know to do things like a push towards getting 100% of Act 5, or maybe pushing to get Cavalier status. And I would say if you are newer to the game and looking at your progression from a first standpoint, it would be all about getting initial clear for Act 5. That is the point that you need to test yourself to feel whether or not, again, you can do more difficult fights. And that's the thing with the Ultron fight of 5.4.6. That is something to really consider when it comes to then the further progression to stuff in Act 6 and getting Cavalier. And yes, Cavalier being the name of the game, some players may feel confident enough to go for this, and I would say that when it comes to tentative steps, so that saber-tooth fight, that is where certain champions are going to be better than others to go up against this. This is no retreat, so you don't want to go backwards because it will trigger off that degen. It's kind of messy, and I would say very aggressive parry-based champions could be very fun for this. Champions that reverse healing effects and as well suppress stuff like your archangels, etc. could be quite good. I've used that in the past, but there are so many other champions. As well, you've got Ghost. Ghost is an amazing champion for a lot of 6.1 for the clearing aspect, and especially when it comes to the biohazard of crossbones. However, though, there are other options to consider, and I must admit, if you're looking for an initial clear, it may be a case you just want to muscle through with a lot of units and maybe the wrong type of champions. It depends what kind of champions you have, and as well, your skill level to get this done. Okay, so let's say that you've done the Cavalier status, you've got the Cavalier title, or you're uncollected and you're like, I've got some good stuff, I'm getting some good stuff from a lot of the event quests, the stuff that are out there. Maybe you're doing the monthly, maybe that's meaning you're getting more acquisition of those shards, of those rank up materials, and you're improving stuff, you're in a better alliance, you're shooting for stuff that's a lot better in the game. Then it's a point to go, look, let's 100% Act 5, and that's maybe something that you'll go next, and that will allow you to get some better stuff, especially getting those tier 5 basics, which are going to rank up some really nice champions for you, and as well that generic awakening gem. Next up, in my opinion, you've got options, and we're going to talk about the various options. Now, you can either choose, depending on the champions that you've received and you've got, to put Labyrinth of Legends first, or it's a case you choose variants first. For me personally, I found that doing a Labyrinth of Legends run once was enough based on when I did it, which was a long time ago, but I have been waiting a long time for certain champions to be more powerful to go back into it, because first time it was a drain on my unit store and I kind of felt that it wasn't a good opportunity for me to do it now, but I am looking forward to awakening certain champions to go back to make it easier. So for example, Aegon. But, you know, I did this with a rank 4 blade back in the day, so it's a case that there are efforts that could be made. Yes, if you're highly skilled, you could use other types of champions as well and not get hit quite so much. It just depends where you are with skill level to do things like avoid being touched and do constant intercepts, re-parrying, but do watch out with the parry because there's a kind of a limber type aspect to it. And as well, right champion creation with your attack rating is going to be vitally important as well. So some things to consider. But at this time, you could balance stuff in with variants. As I said, this is the optional part of the progression. For me personally, variants are one of my favorite bits of content, except for variant 1, it's a complete load of trash. But apart from that, variant 2, 3 and 4 are really good. Variant 2 is a little bit longer, but at the same time there's a lot more funner fights that you could really enjoy, and as well certain champions are going to be better for different content. Variant 4 is going to be the best one overall of all the variants and give good opportunities to rank up certain champions with year specific rank up gems. So if you say to yourself, oh, maybe I picked up a bad champion like King Groot for example, then what you could do is rank that up in order to then do some better stuff when it comes to variant 2. You know, there are different options available and these are well built by Kabam, so it's fun. It gives you the aspect of earning more awakening gems, a 5-star variety, and as well lots more 6-star shards, not a huge amount but good enough as well, not to mention the 5-star crystals and as well the 5-star rank up gems as well. So it's all helpful and it's all relative to further progression and getting yourself through further stuff like Act 6.2, 6.3 and 6.4. Next up, and on the optional sake, again, Abyss of Legends. Now, this will be either people going, look, you should go Abyss of Legends, or you should go with the Act 6 100%ing, and that's something that we'll talk about in a moment. But Abyss of Legends, again, is very specific to certain champions being better for this. Yes, you can do this with other types of champions. It doesn't have to be all about using Aegon every single time. But if you have an opportunity to do it with an Aegon, then it will mean that this situation will be better. And like I said, yes, you don't have to be restricted to do it with just Aegon, but the fact is, you know, it just makes it a lot more easier. But next up is all about the options. Now, for me personally, I've been taking a little bit of break away from doing a lot of permanent content, and at the same time, there is opportunities in that you could decide to do Act 6 over doing things like Abyss of Legends. Again, it depends on what champions you're picking up and as well what you're really prioritizing for your in-game grind. So it could be better options for you to do Act 6.2, but I do warn you there's a lot of very specific fights on specific paths and a gating and classing system based on starage, which isn't particularly brilliant. And as well, I would say that this would be a thing to really train yourself on, especially when you get to that end champion fight, and it's something that I would have to train myself on again when I re-enter this to 100% this particular one in the future. But there are some fun fights and interactions. There's some things that are a bit frustrating, and I would say that just to be careful when you're doing this grind. But an initial clear of Act 6 could be a better option in the interim, rather than going let's go and do Abyss of Legends or 100%ing Labyrinth of Legends in the future. Those are your decisions about switching up with progress. And again, let's just go over this with the information here, so you can pause the screen, it's up to you. And basically it's just me saying how I feel based on making it easier, and as well considering whether or not you've got those key champions. As I said, Aegon is one of them, but also there are others as well that make content grind a lot more easier. So Act 1, 2, 3, 4, part of the 1, 2, 3, 4 progression, of course. Then I've put monthly events, and obviously that's incredibly important when you consider about, again, acquisition. Acquisition, and as well means that you have to challenge yourself to go, look, I can do Master each month, I can do Heroic each month without any kind of issues. It's not too difficult, and as well the same thing will be uncollected once you get there. As well, you've got Act 6.1 initial clear, getting that Cavalier status, very, very important for a lot of new players. So it is a case of like, if you're ready and you have some good champions, rank 3, 5 stars and higher, then there's something, you know, you'll just go confident with a load of units, go do it, you'll be fine. But as well, what to do after? Well, Act 5 100% will be a good opportunity as well. If you start cultivating those champions that are stronger, higher rank, then you're able to blast through that a little bit easier to then obviously have a Cavalier calendar behind you, have a Cavalier progress behind you, which is good. Look, let's do an initial clear of Act 6. For me, that's what I'm doing. This kind of like works in quite well. And as I said, I am waiting for my Aegons to be awakened in order to go back. Yes, I could put a bit more effort and actually do it with the champions that I've got. But the fact is, I'd rather just spend a bit more time and just kind of like go, okay, I've now got them. Let's go do Labyrinth of Legends first to make it a bit more kind of like, you know, train myself on high hit pool fights without losing too much damage before considering doing something like Abyss of Legends. Or point number 16, and that is doing Act 6.2, 6.3 and 6.4 initial clear, and as well 100%ing. That's probably something as well. But the last two will be up to you, whether or not you 100% Labyrinth of Legends first, based on again on champions you may have, unit spend. Do you want to instead spend your units on Act 6, or do you want to spend them on Abyss of Legends? Those are your options, and as I said, between the points of point 12 and downwards to point 19, it becomes a free-for-all based on where you are in the game. There we have it. That has been my progression guide for the entirety of MCOC content. Now, do bear in mind, we're probably going to have a variant 5 at a later date. We'll probably have some more permanent content going into June or maybe July time. Who really knows? But I think this is very, very kind of on the point with based on things of like time, progression, and as well what you're feeling with champions. Obviously, stronger champions make content easier. That's a no-brainer. But at the same time, there's a lot of free-for-all, and saying you've got to stick to this script largely means that games become incredibly boring. So at the end of the day, take what I've said with a pinch of salt, but also it's good in some ways to go, look, am I able to do this now? No, let's wait until a later date. Maybe I'm able to do it not based on the skill knowledge that I have, but I will be able to down the line. But I throw it over to you in the comment section. How would you feel about this? Would you change anything about based on certain aspects or things that I might have missed? Please do so by putting it in the comment section, because it could help a fellow summoner out. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now. And I almost forgot, check out some recent content up here. Check out some supporting links down here of the second channel where Em released a video. She did that. And obviously she's going to read the feedback later on and find out what she's up to next. But she's working today. She won't be working tomorrow, so we'll have a look what's up.